second game of the season, 95-54. I think I was a little bit closer in our scores here. But not enough credit to the defense. I had it 92-63. Nonetheless, the Blue Devils were able to pull away in a game in which they played really well.
Jack, it's not showing on air.
We're live.
It's not showing up on my screen. Okay. All right. If you say so.
Okay. Well, so in any event, the Blue Devils go on to win this one, as I said, 95-54. They end up winning by over 40 points in a game in which the first half they could not hit a three-pointer. In the second half, they did much better from the three-point line and were able to knock down some more shots. Cameron Boozer got into the act, and most importantly for today, Caden Boozer had a really good game in this one.
Great line. 14 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and only 2 turnovers. Great line for Caden. Couldn't be happier. But,
Yeah.
at the same time, Caden had a really good breakout game for him, and Caleb Foster seemed to have a really good game too, with 9 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 turnover, and then he was the only Dookie in foul trouble.
There were a few in the first half. Cameron Boozer was also in foul trouble in this game, which has become a little bit of a theme in the first two games of the season for Cameron. Let me see here. But, it didn't really matter. The Blue Devils, they start off a little bit slow. 0 losing the game 4-0 to Western Carolina. But it took a couple of minutes. They were able to get going. They were up 6-4, the 16:40 mark, and then they went on a 25-2 run, which was through about the 8-minute mark in the first half. And that was the part of the game where I felt like they found a little bit of a flow offensively, but they really, like, throughout this game, and it seems strange to say in a game in which they scored 95 points, but it never felt like they found an offensive flow, even though they had spurts of scoring. And I think part of that was the three-point shooting. Part of that was it seemed like there was a big emphasis pregame on alley oops. They had to throw 5 or 6 alley oops in this one, and only 1 or 2 connected. There was another one that was a foul to Gangba. There was several alley oops that just turned into turnovers or just missed opportunities for the Blue Devils. So in a game in which they scored 95 points, the offense was just not cohesive. But we know, it's just, again, strange to say, we know, with Coach Shire, that it takes time for this to flow. And in a game against the better competition, like we just saw with Texas, they're not scoring 95 points. They would be more in the 70s, similar to the game against Texas with how the offense ran today.
Well, especially if they're going to shoot 31% from 3-point range.
Yes, and a lot of the damage there was in the second half. So good that they were knocking down the shots, but you would have wanted to see that a little bit earlier. It's 45-21 at the half, so I think some of the shots going down in the second half was there was no pressure. They're a little bit more free-flowing in that sense. They scored 50 points in the second half, so again, I am saying the offense didn't look great, but they still scored 50 points in the second half. Defense, I thought was excellent, in both halves. They held Western Carolina 54 points. Quick math here, that means they're allowing on average 57 points throughout the first 2 games of the season, so that's pretty damn good. And I figure we could do something a little bit differently today. We could go through the players individually, since you didn't get a chance to watch the game, and then I'll give you my grade from watching the game. So
Sounds like a plan.
let's start with Cameron Boozer. Read off the stats. I'll let you read off the stats, and then I'll give you the grade.
Well, I had for Cam Bruiser 25 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, no turnovers. Great
I
stat line.
I didn't even realize he got up to 25 points. Um, yeah, the guy he's a machine. He started off a little bit slow, like he was part of the guys who were just not able to connect from three. But then he ended up connecting on several of his threes in the second half. Um, but the 5 assists, he led us or tied for the lead in assists with his brother Caden with 5. Really good game for him, just getting to the basket, and then as the game went on, he started knocking down his threes, rebounded the ball well, found open teammates. Cameron Boozer performance that I think we've come to expect at this point, even though it kind of started off a little bit slow, but just fine from Cameron.
This is one of those early games where I mean, we'll learn a little bit, but because of the nature of the competition, it's really hard to put much value in what we're going to see out there. So, all right, where do you want to go to next, Jack?
You pick. You pick.
The big guy, Patrick. 10.7 rebounds is what stood out for me. He almost had a double double. But you say that they tried to alley oop to him as well.
Boy, did they try to alley oop to him. There was too many times they tried to alley oop to him. But
I
and the
think
only
that was
reason,
one. That was one of the things I was thinking. Maybe we could add that into the game, and as I mentioned in the pregame show. But
yeah, and the only reason I say too many is just it just was ineffective. They couldn't get
mm,
the timing wasn't there. The passes weren't great. The openings weren't quite there. There was one alley oop which I'll talk about later, which wasn't to Gangpa that I want to mention. Um, but Gangpa had a really solid game, as you said, almost double double. I don't think he had too many assists. He had a couple of assists. He had a steal. I thought he did a good job protecting the rim. He missed his only 3 point attempt, but honestly, I felt like we could have gone to him more in the post in this one, as opposed to the alley oop, which I think he's a little bit more comfortable with. Again, it seemed like to me a coaching directive to try to get alley oops going, just based off the number of attempts that we had. So I think it was part of the idea to get something on film, so that way the guys could go back and watch it and see what they did right, or more often than not in this game wrong. But good opportunity to try it out in a game you win by 40.
interesting, interesting approach. All right, let's go to Dame Sar, who I don't even know if he scored. I don't think he scored. Had 4 rebounds, so his stat line offensively did not look impressive.
The stat line matched up with the eye test offensively for Dame
Uh,
in this one, so which is good. Look, he had a stretch in the first half where he took a 3 pointer and he came down and he rolled his ankle. So that it looked like at first it looked like he may need to come out of the game. He ended up taking his 3 free throws and stayed in the game. He went 1 for 3 there, then got the ball, went full court, got fouled, and then went 1 for 2 from the line. So that's how he ended up 2 for 5 from the free throw line. Those were his 2 points. He missed a couple of threes that were decent looks, and then at the end of the game, he had a drive where he easily could have passed it to Evans, but he took it himself and missed the layup. And then he had another opportunity actually earlier in the game where he missed a layup off of a steal. And then he also had another play. Wait, let me finish. He had a play near the end of the game where he turns it over, where his drive is a little bit aggressive. So his defense, just to finish up the point here, is far ahead of where his offense is right now. And I think that was kind of why I was a little bit hesitant, even in the Texas game where he bookended it with the 3 pointers, to say he's ready right now as a shooter. I think that's going to come with time, hopefully, as the season goes on.
so a couple of missed layups coming after the highlight missed dunk of
Correct.
last game.
Correct. Correct. So this is good for Dame. They're going to show him this film. There's a couple instances where he could have passed it, and then a couple of times where he could have just finished, with a little bit more strength going to the rim as opposed to maybe trying to get a finesse type finish.
Um, Isaiah Evans, 7 points, 6 rebounds. What stood out was he was only 1 for 8 from the field. So it didn't look like this was one of his offensive onslaughts.
No, it was. I mean, that's obvious from the stats. But opposed to Dame, I felt like with Evans, it was just one of those nights where his shot wasn't falling. I felt like he was active, similar to Dame. Defensively, obviously, you noted the rebounding for Evans. There was a point where in the second half he had an opportunity for like a putback layup, and it just rimmed out, and you could kind of see him go like you know and then Malik actually ended up tipping it back in. But it just felt like, for as great as it was for him in the Texas game, the shots just weren't falling. It wasn't bad shots as far as I was concerned. They were Isaiah Evans looks. They just weren't falling. And as far as I'm concerned, you made them against Texas. You didn't hit them against Western Carolina. That's a good formula for me. So if he doesn't hit the next couple games, then we play Kansas and he hits 6 3-pointers. I'm all good with Isaiah Evans. Just fine by me.
Show up for the Auburn game.
Or the Florida game and the Arkansas game this year.
Auburn game last year when he hit the six in the
Yes,
first half.
yes.
So, all right. So and Caleb Foster and Caden, I've already mentioned their statistics, but look what happens when you put their statistics together. 23 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, and a total of 3 turnovers from our point guard. That is a phenomenal day between the two of them.
Oh,
Phenomenal day.
and it started off kind of similarly for Foster, not for Caden. Caden started off great and he finished great. This was far and away his best game as a Blue Devil. But since you didn't get a chance to watch this game, for Foster, it kind of started off similarly to. Actually, that's not fair. That's not fair. He took his first two threes, which were good looks. I got to correct myself. They were good looks, they didn't go down. Then he made a. Well, I was picturing something in my mind, but the timeline wasn't correct.
It's like 95 points isn't a good offensive performance.
Well, we'll get to the chat. I'm not the only one who said that. We'll get there. But you're absolutely right. When you look at the stats, you'd say phenomenal. They scored 95 points. How could you complain? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people will disagree with me. But back to Foster, misses first two threes. I thought they're really great looks. I was glad he shot them. Then he got a bucket towards the end of the half. He got a bucket to start the second half, and then he hit a three. So I was just misremembering it, because then there was a play in between where he drove at the 7-footer for Western Carolina, or actually it was the 6'9" or 6'10" forward, and he got his shot blocked. But then it was the next play. It didn't end up as a bucket, but to me it just showed the growth of Foster. So he drives, he gets his shot blocked. The very next play, well before the half court line, he throws it like 3/4 or 2/3 of the court ahead to Evans. It passes around the perimeter. It gets back to Foster. He could have took the shot, but a defender comes out to him. He hits Sarr, who is wide open in the corner. Sarr obviously missed it because you saw his stat line, but he was wide open. It was a really awesome moment for Foster. I wish for him he would have ended up with the assist there, but really building off of the Texas performance, a really good game for Foster. And then since you did them combined, let's go to Caden, who I said it before, this was far and away his best game as a Blue Devil. He came in immediately. This was the alley-oop I wanted to talk about earlier. Pick and roll alley-oop to Malik Brown. He got Malik his points early on. Um, but it was just the passing, the aggressiveness. I thought his defense looked better. Again, as you said before, not the same caliber of competition, but still, he looked better. He just looked much more comfortable and confident would be the two words I would say for Caden. And that's kind of what we thought. It would take him some time to figure it out, and it looked like today he was starting to turn the corner and figure it out, and he for sure had his best game as a Blue Devil.
Well, unless they were playing a lot of the game side by side, the idea that you have combined your point guards with a stat line of 23 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 turnovers, I don't know that you can ask for more from your point guards.
No, especially considering what we've been asking for, which is like, can they get 12, 15 points, maybe 6 assists combined, a couple of turnovers, far and away, their best performance as a duo as well. And one thing to note, now we're gonna have a little bit of not a lot. We've got 2 game sample, but we're gonna have a little bit of data. And so before when we do our preview for the Army game, I'm gonna look through the lineups because we'll have some different. After the first game, it wasn't enough. The second game, it's still not enough, but it'll be fun to look at how many minutes have they played, Caden and Caleb together. For example, Joe M had brought up in the comments before the Texas game what kind of lineups was Shire going to throw out there. Towards the mid to end of the second half, he threw out a lineup with no boozers, and no Foster. So it was Harris, Evans, Sar, Hamenia, and Brown. Also no Gangba in that lineup. I would have never thought that lineup would ever see the court, but we'll get to Harris. The way he's playing, it actually made some sense to me. He's been passing, showing off some more of his game. So I liked it. Hamenia can pass. We know Brown can pass. So there's some elements to that lineup that I like. How often do I expect to see that moving forward? Not very often, considering I don't think Cameron Boozer is going to spend too much time on the bench. But keep going. We've got a couple more players to hit on.
All right. Malik, 10 points, 4 rebounds, and a 3 pointer.
And a three. I have my only complaint with Malik Brown is I wish he would shoot more. That's my only complaint with that guy. He was getting deflections. He had a block. He had a goaltend on another one, which he almost had another block. His passing is so good. He just there was a play. There was a play where he got the ball and ended up with Caden's first bucket, which was an and one. He had the ball on the left wing, and it was like a baseball pass, like almost Jokic style. He just whipped it across the opposite corner to Caden, who attacked his man, drove, and got the and one. The only times Malik gets himself in trouble with his passing are when I feel like he could be looking for his own shot and he's like over passing and then he turns it over. So he hit the three, he pump faked the three and drove to the rim and got fouled, got a couple free throws there. There was a moment where he turned down a three and tried to kick it back out and ended up being an offensive foul. And you could see the coaching staff telling him, shoot it, because we know he's capable of scoring because he's had his career high against Duke where he had like 25 points a couple years ago. So especially with Caden Boozer, I feel like there's a real chemistry there that's developing, and I think Malik can be a little bit more, not a little bit, a lot more aggressive looking to score. I think it would help the team and help him too.
Hamenya, 8 points, 4 rebounds.
Man, Hamenya, forget the stats. Put the stats,
Okay.
throw them away for a second. There are multiple times in this game, put them in the corner for a second. Multiple times in this game where I wrote down, Hamenya deflection, Hamenya dives, Hamenya saves the ball. He is just like flying around, diving. There was a play in the first half, which I wish you could have saw. Hamenya gets the deflection. It starts trickling out to half court. Caden Boozer dives, and it goes even further into the other side of the court, and then you see Darren Harris just booking it, and then he dives, and it ends up Duke ball. He deflects it up. It was just everybody was just hustling, going for the ball, and I think Hamenya and Harris. This is the second straight game. I know we're not on Harris, but I've noted Harris diving for the ball. He clearly is hungry to force Shire to play him more. And I think both of those guys coming off the bench are doing everything they can to make it really difficult for Shire to trim the rotation. Those guys are playing defense, they're hustling, and they're playing quite well. And I guess I'll jump to Harris because he's the last of the 9 guys who played. What did he finish with stats wise?
5 points, 3 assists.
Honestly, given I wish I could have the minutes because I lost for some reason. I lost the minutes at the end of the game. But given the amount he played, a really solid performance from Darren Harris, who is just he looks much improved, much more confident from last season, and then the rest of his game. Last year, in all fairness, he didn't play very much, and when he came into the game, there was typically other guys in the game who were ahead of him in the pecking order. Now he's getting an opportunity to show off all the facets of his game, and I've been really impressed with the hustle and the passing this year from DH as they call him.
So 2 team stats that are kind of indicative. One is very important in light of what you're saying is the movement on the court of almost reckless abandon to try to get the ball in play, dive for the ball. We have Cam with 8 rebounds, Patrick with 7 rebounds, Isaiah Evans with 6, Caleb with 6, Malik with 4, Humenya with 4, and Caden with 7. When you have 7 players with 4 or more rebounds, that means everybody's going to the boards. I mean, because 1 or 2 guys could get lucky, but when 7 guys are doing it, it means there's an emphasis coming from the coach to say, I want you going to the boards, and I want to see you more aggressive going for the ball, as you pointed out. And the reason, let's clear this up, I had to watch the Ohio State football game, which I'm an Ohio State Buckeye fan. This is a Buckeye family. They're winning big, but so it's not like I had to watch the game. I wanted to watch the game, and I was able to watch the Duke game on StatCast and did my best to follow both, knowing you were watching the Duke game.
Yes, had to make sure I tired out the dogs so I wouldn't have any interruptions. Had to take them out at halftime. They did just fine. The only thing I was gonna say is I think the only thing that kept Cameron Boozer from another double-double in this game was his own teammates snatching up all the rebounds. But last thing before we get to the chat, we got a lot of people in there, which is awesome. Really happy that you guys are sharing your Saturday afternoon with us. We really appreciate that. So, gold, Cameron Boozer. Silver, Caden Boozer. I thought he was fantastic. Great game from Caden. And bronze, Caleb Foster. I thought the point guard duo was really good. You can make an argument for Gangba, I think, for sure, as a bronze. You can make an argument for Malik. I think both centers were really great in this game. So that's how I saw the medals. Now, let's turn it over.
I only have one other team stat. That at the half, they were at 82% free throws, and they finished the game at 76% free throws, 25 of 33, which, just like you're saying, 95 points isn't, a great offensive performance. Anytime a Duke team's below 80% from the free throw line, I want them to finish the game shooting above 80%. And that's the mark of a lot of Duke teams, is that they're very good free throw shooting teams. Oh, it's our sound technician.
We've got some deer. Hold on.
Well, that would be our sound technicians. That's Mac and PJ, the latest to the staff. Obviously, they found some deer, which always excites them after watching the Duke game. But here's Jack.
Sorry about that little interruption. There's nothing that excites these dogs more than seeing deer. As much as they like, Duke as well. There's levels to this, and they're absolutely going crazy right now. So I'm gonna try to hit the chat. All right, Joe M. First in the chat, we appreciate that, Joe. Feels like there's a little bit too much energy on offense. Shots are a little too strong. Passes, lobs a little bit off target. And Duke Hoops March Madness agrees with that. So listen, I wasn't the only one who was seeing a 95-point performance and then still having questions about the offense. I agree with both of those points. But there's another comment on the shooting, so I'm gonna wait to touch on that one for just a little bit. Duke Hoops March Madness says that toboggan is badass. I'm jealous. You two are my hands down favorite source for Duke insight. We appreciate that, Duke
Thank you.
Hoops.
Thank
We're
you.
going to be covering each game. We'll be at the Army game, so our post game will be a little bit later than normal, but we'll have the preview out probably Sunday. Well, Sunday night. Sunday night. What time are you going to be back tomorrow?
I know I'm traveling all over the place, Los Angeles, Boston. We should be back by 5, 6 o'clock.
All right, so do your research tonight.
Yes.
All right, all right, all right. There we have it. So we'll have it out tomorrow night. Matthew Harris says, give these guys a thumbs up. We appreciate that. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. Let us know what you guys think in the chat. We appreciate that. Matthew. ACBC Slay. Talking ball. Does the 3-point shooting concern you? I'm worried this will affect us in March. So that's why I wanted to wait. I saw that comment. And here's what I have to say. Last year, Duke similarly started off really slowly from three. And it felt like they were shooting good shots. And by the end of the year, they were at 38, 39% from three and had spent a large chunk, February, March above 40%. I don't know if that's what's going to happen this year, but what I do know is the offense is going to get better. So I expect the 3-point shooting to improve. The question is, do we have the caliber of shooters that we had last year? In particular, we know about Isaiah Evans. We know he's going to, and I guess I'll put $5 in the jar because I have to compare here. He's going to replace, Khan or Tyrese, right? One of those two high volume 3-point shooters. But will we have another guy step up and, take some of the volume 3-point shooting? Because Cameron Boozer's going to hit some. Foster's going to hit a couple. Caden's going to hit a couple. Can Hemenia hit more? Can Sarr hit more? Will Darren Harris play enough to shoot more? That's kind of where I'm at. Evans, I'm not worried about. We know he's going to hit his, but will the rest of the team improve with their shooting?
I think it's a really good point to project ahead. Do we have the assassin from 3-point land? And in any given game, that's Isaiah Evans. And certainly Cam Boozer came alive in the second half from 3-point range. Will everyone else perform from 3-point land against better defense who is guarding against the threes? So it's an early concern, and it's one that we'll watch and see what happens. We've got a long way to go.
Long way to go. I think that concern is probably going to pop up again in these early big matchups. The Kansas game that's coming up, Arkansas, Florida, those big Texas Tech. That's where I really want to see how does that how do we shoot from three in those games? I think that'll tell us something. But I think as we build to them, do we shoot better, in this next game against Army or Indiana State? Can we shoot better in those games to build confidence? ACBC Slaya says, I love our defense, though. And Lawrence Freeman says, team defense will take us to the Final Four. Yeah, our defense. It's funny because I watched Countdown to Craziness and I was like, wow, our shooting is way ahead of our defense. And boy, was I wrong. Because our defense is way ahead of where our shooting is.
So I have a lot of fun with Lawrence Freeman's comments, and especially last year in the ACC. So originally, I thought our team was a Sweet 16 team, and then when I started to understand each of the players, I thought we were a Elite Eight. And Lawrence Freeman is now saying, first one, that our defense could bring us to a Final Four team.
The starting lineup, I'm curious what the data is going to be. Because after one game, it's one sample, but they did play 14 minutes. They had a defensive rating around like 60, um, which is like it's per, I think it's per 100 possessions. So typically you'd be like 100 point, it would be 1 point per possession. So they're averaging zero point 0.6 points per possession in those 14 minutes against Texas. Extremely small sample size. I'm just curious what that number is going to be after this game with Western Carolina, because that starting lineup is a bear to go up against as an opposing offense. There's just nobody to pick on. Foster's a great on-ball defender. He sets the tone. Dame Sar, we know what he's capable of. Isaiah Evans has improved immensely. And then you've got the size inside with Cameron Boozer and Gangba, and those two guys can switch. Cameron Boozer is strong enough to go up against opposing fives. I agree. It's going to be the thing we hang our hat on all year long.
Well, with one caveat, which is foul trouble.
Yes, good point.
Will because when Brown and Gangba foul out of a game, we have to see. Today, the big guys, no problem, other than, as you said, in the first half, Cameron Boozer had two fouls, but he finished the game. He had no problem finishing the game, and the only one in foul trouble finishing the game was Caleb, who had four. But it also shows the aggression.
Yes, yeah. Duke had a lot of fouls early. In the first minute of the game, they had two fouls and a turnover. Cam had picked up his second foul at the 7:22 mark in the first half. So to your point, it's aggression. I'm sure part of that is they emphasize defense all summer. You don't call fouls in practice like they call them in games. So some of this is that they just got to work through some of those habits, but that's a good thing to work through, right? It's a good problem to have, to your point. Lastly, on Cam, they did bring him back in with his second foul a couple minutes later for a few more minutes than the first half. So as much as we may not love it, Shire clearly was using that as a coaching moment. How do you do with two fouls? Can you get to the end of the first half without picking up your third? And he did so. So that was a good sign for Cameron. All right. Joe M says, would not have guessed Cam going 4 for 9 from 3, while Evans went 0 for 5. Yeah. That's a very good point. You would have not found that on my bingo card before the game either.
The only thing that you might be able to say about that is that Isaiah Evans is a streak shooter, and he can go 5 for 10 in a game from 3-point range, where he'll go 5 for 5 in the first half and 0 for 5 in the second half.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's what he does, and that's why, even though he's been so good as our second option, I thought it was important for us to have other guys, because there's going to be games like this in the future for Evans where he doesn't knock down his threes, but he did a bunch of other things well. So it wasn't a bad game by any means for Isaiah Evans.
And as far as other options are concerned, when you and I have already said that the big three looks like Cameron and the big guy Patrick and Isaiah, I may have said earlier that the combined point guard total was 23 points, 13 rebounds, and 9 assists, with a total of 3 turnovers. I have repeated that 3 times now because I have been hard on the guards, and I believe that today they deserve lots of props.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. Let's keep going. ACBC with a few here. I think Dame loses his dribble too often. He's not strong enough, needs to work on his body. Prefer Nick over Dame in the lineup. Foster or Boozer, Evans, Hamenia, Boozer, Gangba. Just a couple more from him. Evans and Hamenia are our best shooters. Hamenia is much stronger and bigger than Dame. Dame needs one more year of college like Evans. Dame would be great in year 2. All right, so a few things to talk about there. Um, Number one, I agree with your sentiment on Dame. Like I said at the top when I was going through the players, his offense is not as far advanced as his defense, but I do think it's going to come as the season develops. There are flashes there. Like he's getting all the way to the rim. He's just not making his dunks and layups when he gets there. I feel like that's something that can be coached. When you talk about his strength, I agree that's something I've noticed, especially defensively when he's been matched up against stronger players in the post. But with that being said, he is also, I think he's our best perimeter defender because of his length. And I think that's why he's in the lineup, because he's going to draw the opposing team's best perimeter scorer. And he's going to make life very difficult. And Hamenia is better off guarding threes and fours and occasionally smaller fives. And so I think while they may play a similar position, they're very different players.
Um, I don't know if any of our fan base would know the movie The Replacements, but the kicker in The Replacements was skinny, and they described him as wiry. And that's kind of like Dame Sar. He is muscular. He just doesn't have a lot of weight. He's at 190, and so he's strong when you really look at the body. But at 190, he has a tough time with some matchups with bigger forwards or bigger players that put 20, 30 pounds. And so the point of our of the in the chat that one more year, there's no question that the guy puts on 15, 20 pounds.
I just think that as long as he continues to show his defensive potential, that 15, 10, 15 pounds he's going to put on is going to be for some NBA team because he's going to be a first round pick. And they're going to hope he can improve offensively. Um, and then the other comment, Evans and Hamenia are our best shooters. I would say Evans and Harris are our best shooters. Yeah, I would say Evans and Harris. Hamenia is up there, don't get me wrong, but I would say Harris is ahead of him. Joe M. The rest of the team looked really good when Foster was on the floor today. Yeah, Foster, listen, like you said before, we've been critical of both guards. There's nothing to be critical about today. He was great. He had a great game. Even though the one time where I mentioned he overdrove and got a shot blocked, he the next play, the very next play, he made that adjustment and had a really nice pass ahead. So a really great game from Caleb Foster. Let's keep building and Caden Boozer. Um, ACBC, I love Foster, but sometimes he tries too hard to drive and lay up. He needs to learn how to kick it out to an open shooter instead of forcing the issue. I love our effort today and how we dive for loose balls. Yeah, I feel like we've touched on all of that. What do you think, JD?
I the temptation to say that Caleb Foster could all of what was in the comment is correct. And we just decided in the pregame that we were not going to, we were going to let them play, and we were pleasantly surprised. So let's see what happens in the Army game. Let's see what happens in the Kansas game, and then we'll go back to how good is Caleb Foster, how good is Caden
Caden.
Bruiser.
Laura Markle. Hello, Laura. Hello, fellow Duke fans. I am glad that Iffy and the rest of the bench were able to get in to the end of the game today. Agreed. Agreed.
If
Because
he got two,
he got,
Jack Scott hit a three.
they both had a rebound. Cameron Sheffield had a rebound. He didn't hit his shots, but good for those three guys to be able to get into the game, as you said there, Laura. All right. I'm going to try to pick out a few of these here. Matthew Harris. I missed the game today. Do you guys think Caden's performance was his improvement, or did it have to do with the school they were playing? Very good question. Very good question. I mean, the cop out answer is probably the correct answer, which is it's probably both, right? It's the level of competition and also him being more confident. This was his second official game, fourth game, really for Duke. He seemed more just ready to go, like when he came in off the bench. And I don't know if that was, this being a home game, opposed to the neutral site game against Texas. Some of it certainly it helps. You can't hide from it that you're playing Western Carolina instead of Texas. It's not the same. It's just not. But at the same time, he came out immediately. He gets the alley oop to Malik Brown. He gets his own and one. He played better, I thought, defensively. So I think we got to give him tons of credit and see how he does in the Army game. Can he continue now that the level of competition may be similar, but it's going to be on the road? So how do you perform in a road game?
Right. So I think I'm not looking so much at the Army game. I think the Army game will be, much like West Carolina, other than home and away, which is a good point, small arena. But it really will be when we play in Cameron North against Kansas. That's where we'll get a really good look at how we're improving.
Yes. ACBC says Dame is more athletic, but Hamenia is much bigger. There's a Dame Hamenia argument. I skipped to the end here in the chat. He doesn't need to be as athletic. Hamenia reminds him of Khan. There's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of that.
Not the shot.
Right, not yet. We'll see if
Not yet. We'll see.
Hamenia can come around, but that's the big. But again, Khan started off, I guess another 5. He started off really hot, and then remember there was that.
I'm keeping score.
I think I'm at like 10 or 15.
We're each at 15.
Okay. But then there's that stretch, in this part of the season where Khan wasn't hitting his shots. And then he, somewhere around January, he just flipped a switch and it felt like he never missed again. Let's see. Joe M. Malik looked the best he has offensively at Duke since he played against Duke while he was at Syracuse. Yeah, it's a game I always go to when I talk about Malik offensively. The game when it was Malik Brown versus Mark Mitchell. They both had like 25 points. It's in him. It's in him. We just got to figure out how to get it out of him. And I think this year, more than last, we're going to need him to score more. ACBC says you can see Hamenia wears his heart on his sleeve whenever he's on the court, and Hamenia is big. Dog's going crazy. Look like Joe M. Look like they're trying to be a Harris Pat connection with the lobs, but they weren't falling. It's interesting you say that, Joe. It's funny to me at times. I've noticed the Harris Gangba. Is that who you said? Yeah, Harris Gangba connection this year hasn't been quite on point, which is very strange to me considering they played in high school together. So I would think they would be really on point. But I've the Evans Gangba connection is much stronger. So I don't know what to make of that. Joe M noticed that Malik was running some offense too. Yeah, he was. Um, Laura says you have to remember that Malik is coming off of injury from last season. He's not practiced with the whole team as all the other guys did, coming off of two injuries. Very good point. Very good point. But I think he's played just fine. I have no. I think he's been great, to be honest. And the fact he scored 10 points, he honestly was more aggressive. So he's. We love Malik Brown.
We love Malik Brown, but I think she's absolutely right in terms of he's got a knee injury, he's got a shoulder injury, he wants to put it behind him. Every time you're on that court and you feel a little tweak, which may not be a sign that you re-injured anything, you have to think about it mentally. It'll take a couple of more games of him running up and down where he stops.
All right, I'm gonna get to. I'm gonna skip ahead in the chat a little bit because I do have to take care of these dogs. So I apologize. Nothing personal here, but I wanted to get to this one, which was Joe M says that Shire just announced Sebastian Wilkins will redshirt this season, which explains why he did not get into this game. I I at the 8 minute mark, I was really expecting Wilkins to get into this game. Um, Thoughts before I give my thoughts. What are your thoughts on that, JD?
I think it would be nice, but if Shire's showing his hand that it's a 9-man rotation, which is certainly big enough, and he's willing to then put Iffy, Jack Scott, and Cam Sheffield in, which puts you to 12, he may have the luxury to say, I'm going to redshirt him. So
It's yeah. I have a Makes me think of a few things. Number one, are we a couple injuries from Joey Baker situation again? That's where I went first. Number two, Sebastian had reclassified, so he came to Duke a year early. So basically, he's gonna get a year to acclimate to practice, etc. Instead of being in high school, and then next year, knock on wood, hopefully he stays, doesn't enter the portal. Um, You'd be ready to hit the ground running, being very familiar, with the program, with the coaching staff, some of the teammates. How many teammates, we don't know, but some of them I would expect. Uh, and I do think, he could have been the 10th man. Like we had Duke Hoop said Wilkins would give us a true defensive production as a 10th man. Um, you know, I do think he could have given us some spot minutes, but if that's all they were looking at, as you said, 9 is certainly plenty to play, especially in college. So I get the decision, and yeah, I just hope to see him play next year. But that's a long ways away.
I mean, Coach K used to really go with a 7-man rotation. And when he added an eighth, it was a surprise. So Shire is showing that he has a 9-man rotation that he's willing to play, and then 3 bench players that he's willing to give the final 4 minutes of a game.
Yeah, and the last time Duke won the championship, it was 8 is enough. They only played 8 guys. They had like T-shirts or whatever. Marshall Plumley or Grayson Allen were the 7th and 8th guys on that team. So you don't need more than 9 as long as everyone is, knock on wood, healthy. Laura says, I've heard of their replacements. I have not watched it. She also says, I am glad. Go ahead.
I just Laura, if you're clearly a sports fan, it is just it's absolutely a hysterical movie about when the NFL players went on strike. It's comedy about scab football, and just it's worth the watch. Absolutely funny movie.
Laura also says, I'm glad to start seeing Isaiah drive more. Yeah, he's really diversifying his game. You want to know what? For me, maybe this was just because I was there, but the Virginia game that I went to last year was the first time I really noticed him. He had several drives in that game, and he got to the free throw line. And from then on, there's been more of it mixed in. Now, obviously, last year, his minutes fluctuated depending on who was available in the game. But this year, all four the two games and two exhibitions, he's looked to drive at least a couple of times. So, and his passing, go
Man to
ahead.
man references to last year do not count to the kitty.
Yeah, yeah, that I was gonna say. You can't find me for that. That was just Evans. We're just talking Evans growth. Come on. All
You're
right,
allowed to, so we're at 15-15, but you're allowed to compare the same player to last year.
all right. And Joe loves the $5 score tracker here. A couple more before we get out of here. Duke Hoop says if he deserves 5 minutes a game. I I know we disagreed on that in the preview. Um,
I won him 5 minutes a game precisely because of the game already showing that Brown and Gangba could foul out of a game. I want to know that we can get 5 minutes out of Iffy. So I would like to see him 5 minutes a game.
am I this is again same thing I said in the preview. Nothing against Iffy. I'm just going off of what Shire's been doing and the fact that both Brown and Gangba fouled out and we didn't see Iffy said to me it's going to take. I don't even know if Cam Boozer fouling out. He may just put Hemenia at the five. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I'm just reading, the tea leaves of what Shire's doing here. Um, yeah. All right, that's it. We'll leave it there. Um, I guess one more. ACBC says he hopes Wilkins comes back for year two. I agree. If you're still here, you haven't subscribe to the channel. Like this video. We will have the preview out for the Army game late Sunday night, maybe early Monday, worst case scenario, and then we will be at the Army game. So that post game show will be an hour and 15 minutes after the game. So bear with us. But we appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.